Hi everyone, this is AnatomicArt, and I'll be giving some of my brief thoughts on today's book, which is I Shall Sing These Songs Beautifully by Yorgos Lanthimos. So just some background on this book. This book was a tie-in, much like the previous book that we looked at, Dear God, the Parthenon is Broken. That book was a tie-in with Poor Things, while this book is a tie-in with Yorgos' 2024 film, Kinds of Kindness. And going into a little bit more about the text, the title is from a poet by the name of Sappho, and she was an ancient Greek poet. And as the title suggests, I shall sing these songs. Sappho was a lyric poet, which meant that many of her poems, when they were read, were written to be accompanied by music playing. And this will come into play more later on when we talk about the themes and the connections with the film and the book. But Sappho was originally, well, I guess she still is today, considered to be a lesbian. And being born on Lesbos, which is where the name lesbian originates from, a lot of her poems, which many are lost to time, are believed to have kind of explored that and were the origination of that kind of theme and that exploration of women's sexuality and gender. But taking those fragments, let's kind of see how Yorgos's work integrates with that. So of course, Yorgos, if you've seen even one of his films, you know how black and dark comedy they are. This film came out in 2024, so this was after Poor Things and after Dogtooth and after those other films of originally of his, The Favorite. And this film has 3 anthology stories, and it stars, of course, Emma Stone being his muse, and then a few other actors and actresses. So Poor Things, of course, explored, I like to kind of talk about it like it was the weird man or weird person's Barbie. Explored a lot of themes of like women's role in society and sexuality and gender. But here with Dear God, the Parthenon was Broken, that was another book of his, the photography book, that was inspired by another poem, which was done by Patti Smith, who's also a singer. So there's a lot of singing and music tie-ins and things to look at. And of course, with film, music plays an integral role. It accompanies the pictures and the spoken dialogue. So a lot of this text in here is written by Yorgos himself. And kind of this film can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways, and certainly with this book it's very like open-ended, and there isn't too much of a strong narrative throughout besides the little blurbs of text. But many of the blurbs of text and even a lot of the stories in the anthology, they all tie together and deal with like relationships and the human condition, and just kind of like the fragility of being a human and all that good stuff. So a lot of these pictures, they're all black and white, and there's a few colored sprinkled throughout. But of course, like we've talked about with the previous book, Yorgos does all of his photography and photographs through film. So we've talked about it before, but we get a lot of different we get a different look and feel with the way that these photographs look with the film and the grain and the depth of field and the contrast versus traditional digital, or not traditional, but more modern or recent digital photography. Now we're looking at the Pearlescent book cover, which certainly evokes a more ethereal or magical feeling. And I think that's what Yorgos tries to get with all of his photographs, even though they're very out there. But we love Yorgos here, of course. So thank you for listening and flipping along. Let me know what thoughts you had with this book, and I'll see you guys in the next flip through.